Looks like Angeball is over, despite winning them their first trophy in 17 years. And while it is bittersweet, I do think it was time to move on. And it seems like now they'll be hiring Thomas Frank. Now, I think out of all of the realistic options, Thomas Frank is a smart pick. He's led Brentford to promotion and has kept them punching above their weight for a long time now. I think he's a modern, intelligent manager. He's adaptable, he's well organized, and he's known for making his teams both compact and dangerous. And while he may not bring the highs of Ange's chaos ball, he's also less likely to bring the lows and lead to a lot more sustainable success for Tottenham. Now, before we talk about how he's going to set up at Spurs, I think it's very important that we do a quick little overview of his last season at Brentford and what he was looking to accomplish. So Brentford were a team that he evolved from playing a 3-5-2 when he was first initially promoted to playing a 4-2-3-1 this season. And this was generally what the team looked like when he would set them up. Even within this, he was still extremely flexible tactically. And usually what he would like to do as well is he would often play in a deep build-up, looking to kind of bait teams in and to put in direct balls for specifically this front three. Lewis Potter, who was initially a winger, decided he had him play as a left back due to the long-term injury of their former starting left back, Rico Henry. So usually what he would do is he would go up a lot and kind of support the attack with his ability to beat players 1v1. And the left-sided 8, Yarmouk would be the one to drop and kind of occupy these spots in specific matches to kind of cover for Lewis Potter going up and helping out over here. And then you would also have Damsgaard as well, who's the main playmaker, would float either between being like a normal 10 or playing as an 8, again, to either play in any of these front three or to help the midfield in terms of keeping the ball. And then other things to keep in mind as well is generally anytime one fullback would go high, the other one would go low. Kayode was also another fullback while didn't go up as much as Lewis Potter did. Still had a lot of engine, would help out in Buemo a lot, and was a good 1v1 defensively as well. And then I think the other thing to keep in mind is that in terms of their pressing, they would press generally in like a 4-4-2 shape. They were extremely aggressive in terms of winning the ball back in the opposition third, and as well as the fact that their striker options were all extremely clinical. Buemo scored 20 goals this season, Vissel with 19, and Sinead with 11. So these are all things to keep in mind as well. In terms of what I'm expecting for him to do at Spurs, I think primarily he's going to line up in a 4-2-3-1. I'm expecting probably a little bit more of a traditional setup. Obviously, we know that both fullbacks can overlap and go forward, especially Pedro Porro. I'm expecting kind of the wide forwards, whether it's Son, Kulusevski, to be able to tuck in. So that way, if the fullbacks do go forward, obviously it'll give them space in the outside to operate. I think maybe for the bigger games, Thomas Frank would probably go with more of like a back three. Ideally, I see like obviously Van de Ven and Romero being here, and probably someone like a Kevin Danso or a Dragusin as well. And when I look at the attack, I think that a striker like a Solanke is perfect for what he wants. I think in terms of the midfield, I would say that Bentancur is probably a little bit more ideal in terms of operating in a deeper role. However, Bergvall and Sarr I think could be more of a dynamic box-to-box options, but I'm not sure if Basuma is still going to be there, so they might need to get in another physical/intelligent midfielder to cover for that. I think another thing to keep in mind too is they're also going to need a more playmaking number 6, so someone in the mold of like an Adam Warren from Crystal Palace or like a Benjamin Stiller from Stuttgart. So that's another area of concern, I would say, for Thomas Frank. In terms of the playmaking role, obviously I think James Maddison can fulfill that playmaking similar to Damsgaard, even though I don't see him dropping deep as much as Damsgaard does, although I don't think Tottenham's midfielders would need it as much midfield help as Brentford's does. Also, Kulusevski is also a good playmaker as well, so that kind of adds to the playmaking options for Spurs. In terms of the striking role, Frank has a good reputation when it comes to developing strikers, the likes of obviously Tony, Ollie Watkins, Vissa, and I think Solanke might be kind of like his ideal striker for that. He's tall, so you can play balls in the air. He's good in terms of dropping deep and good in terms of link-up play. And I think that might help, in terms to platform the inside forwards. I think this probably is one of the strengths that Spurs need to strengthen the most. Obviously, we just talked about how clinical Vissa and especially Mbeumo were, scoring 19 and 20 goals respectively. Son obviously be on the decline. Brennan Johnson not being as polished of a player as Vissa or Mbeumo are, despite the amount of goals that he got this year. And then Kulusevski, I think, has been injured for spurts as well. So I think the inside forwards are going to be a cause of concern for him. I think getting in a playmaking midfielder to help just in terms of a deep line playmaker, I think might be a cause of concern as well. But I do think there's a lot here for Thomas Frank to work with, and I'm definitely expecting better things from Spurs next season. I think some other concerns that I would probably have as well is the fact that this is going to be the first time he's played in a team with European football, and obviously I know we've talked about how adaptable he is. However, I do think it's important to keep in mind that at Brentford, he has, like I said, worked with players that aren't to the same quality, and while he has improved them and he is a good man manager, being able to play one game a week gives him ample time to adjust and make his team more versatile in a way that he's just not going to be able to do at Tottenham, especially if they go far in the Champions League. So I definitely think that would be another thing he would have to keep in mind, is just how is he going to rotate his squad. He's going to have to probably commit more to like a baseline system that he would probably like, just because he's not going to have as much time to focus on each and every individual game. Because I do think another thing that is noted that Brentford never really went far in any of the domestic competitions, so his plate never really got that full, so to speak. So these are all things to keep in mind. But I think all in all, I think this was a good signing by Spurs. I think he offers, in a lot of ways, is the opposite of Ange in terms of offering that stability that the Spurs higher up were probably looking for. And I'll probably make a video about Ange's time at Spurs, because that was a roller coaster in and of itself. But yeah, that's going to be it for my video today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And most importantly of all, remember to have a good day.